Hello, welcome to another episode of AKI videos. Today, we are going to talk about reinventing your business model itself. It's a Clayton Christensen thought from an HBR paper. The secret to maintaining a thriving business, any business, is recognizing when it needs a fundamental change. Before we understand the Clayton Christensen model, I offer a brief prelude into understanding business models itself. In 2011, the Journal of Marketing, in its 75th year of publication, came up with a paper, a framework for understanding conceptual contributions in marketing. The paper talks about how do individual business constructs pan out into a beautiful set of relationships. How does the bargaining power of supplier, bargaining power of buyer, threat of new entrant, threat of substitutes and rivalry, how do they all tie up together to create a nice linkage? What is that core competence, the core skill that you would require to understand model development itself so that you end up having a nice, clean, complete, well explained, and beautiful model? The skill that you require for developing models is the skill set of a cartographer. Try to look at the various constructs that are lying all around you. Slowly you will understand that there is a nice set of interlinkages, a set of relationships, a set of reinforcements between these constructs. And that reinforcement helps you to create a new model. And once a model is established, it has to be justified with a lot of concrete examples. Take the case of Atmanirbhar Bharat. What are those factor conditions in India today? What could be the new demand conditions of a growing emerging economy like India? What are the industries where the rivalry and competence is already set in place? What are those related and supporting industries that MSMEs can be enabled to develop? And what's the role of the government in reinforcing all these capabilities? That is what is going to create an Atmanirbhar Bharat for you. So an example for Porter Diamond. The muse is over. Let us now get on to the Clayton Christensen model. The disruptive, innovative, reinvented business modeling of Christensen starts with the customer value proposition. Who is your target customer? What is his problem or what is his need? The two words take you to Kano modeling, in which your offering can be positioned as something which will either enhance his satisfaction or nullify his dissatisfaction. In either way, this customer value proposition can be built only when three other constructs are in place. They are: how do you understand your own profit formula? When you're trying to service your customer, when you're trying to give value to your customer, that does not mean that you compromise on your own revenues. So you will have your own revenue model. You need to have your cost structures in place. You need to understand the philosophy of margins, and you need to know your resource velocity, your velocity of capital, your velocity of inventory, your velocity of material movement in supply chain, etc. The next could be your key resources. Who are your people? What is the new technology required, if at all? What are the new assets, competencies, alliances, branding, etc.? Can you tell me what's the most vital ingredient that is common to Horlicks, Boost, Bonvita, Maltova, and Complan? The ingredient is brand power. So obviously, these are the sort of resources that need to come together, and then you need to have your processes in place. You need to have your new product development strategy in place. You need to have your supply chain sourcing in terms of scale and scope in place. You need to have your talent management in terms of hiring, training in place. You need to have your channel management in place. Now, these four you would understand would be highly interlinked. As we talk about models, any model is a set of very strong interlinkages of the four constructs that are proposed. The one which I described first, customer value proposition, is an exogenous construct. It's an opportunity, it is completely external, and one has to sense what could be a potentially new CVP. Once the CVP is sensed, the remaining three are endogenous constructs. They have to be built. They are core strengths and are completely internal to the organization. This brings us to a key question. When do you think there should be a new business model? The customer value proposition, or in simple words, value, can be layered into four levels: creation of value, capturing of value through a good pricing strategy, delivery of value, and sustenance of value. The value that I create today should be sustained for a fairly long period of time. Now, at any of these stages, for either creating or capturing or delivering or sustaining, if a significant change is required in any one of these factors, a significant change in my cost structure, a significant change in the people who are required to run the show, a completely different and innovative usage of technology, a new set of alliances that need to be built up, or a completely new set of assets and competencies that needs to be brought in to create, capture, deliver, and sustain the new customer value proposition. It is at that point that I would think of a new business model. Friends, it should now be clear to you that CVP, or customer value proposition, is the new game changer. As in all models, as explained previously, the justification and understanding comes from examples. Let us look at three new industries. New in the sense they are fairly new. And for each of these industries, I'll give you two examples each. The industries are online food delivery industry, OOH, or out of home coffee drinking market, and three, OTT, over the top media industry. For each of these industries, I'll give you two examples. Both the examples have the same CVP but a differential positioning for sustenance. Let us start with the online food ordering industry. Takes me back to a couple of years when three students worked with me: Anuja, Hardik, and Anchit, and we presented a paper on food ordering apps and their adoption inhibition at the National Conference on Emerging Trends in Business 2018 at Christ University. Incidentally, the paper won the Best Paper Award in the conference. Coming out of my personal muse, let us try to look at the customer value proposition of two prominent players in this market, Swiggy and Zomato. Swiggy, as you would know, is a typical food delivery app. Zomato, on the other hand, is more of a restaurant discovery app. But whatever be the case, their profit formula, I'm not talking about Swiggy or Zomato, I'm talking about the industry per se. Their profit formula started with the app and only orders formula. The onus of delivery, once the order was transferred to the restaurant, was on the restaurant and the hotel would deliver. Then the model morphed into order and delivery team, and suddenly you had a swarm of scooter resources running all over the city, and not only taking orders but also delivering food at the right time. Today, we are talking about the same industry moving into a meal kit delivery. I take orders for a whole week. I sort of decide the menu from Monday to Friday and deliver a Dabbawala style through an app from some virtual restaurant to your workplace at a specific time throughout the week. So each of them is a slightly different customer value proposition. Each has got a completely different cost structure associated with it, and they give different possibilities for revenue and profit. Now, for all of this to fall in place, you need a set of resources, you need a set of processes. The most important resource, as I told you, is a delivery army. The orange army for the Swiggy or the red army for the Zomato, who deliver food 24 by 7. Then the ubiquitous app through which you can both discover the restaurant and order for the food. And today, the restaurant need not necessarily be a live, real, physical restaurant. It can be a virtual restaurant or what the industry calls as a cloud kitchen, strategically located at different points within a given city, so that by using a hub and spoke model, these cloud kitchens can cater to whatever orders that you're making across an entire city. So, a lot of new CVPs, a lot of new profit possibilities, a lot of new resources and processes get together in place. The second industry is out of home coffee consumption industry. Coffee, as you know, as a beverage, is almost 5 centuries old. But the out of home coffee industry is only 50 years old and was started by Starbucks in 1971 in a place called Pike Place Market in Seattle. The year 1971, so which means we're going to have the 50th year celebrations in 2021. I was incidentally lucky to have gone to Pike Place and have a cup of coffee in the very first cafe of Starbucks. Now, coming to the Indian story, there are two prominent competitors here, Cafe Coffee Day and Barista Coffee. Within this narrow CVP, they have two completely different positionings. Cafe Coffee Day, as you would know, has got a very youth orientation in terms of demographics, and their punchline is a lot can happen over coffee. Barista, on the other hand, focuses on exclusivity, focuses on ambience, focuses on a rich decor, a laid back European style, and has got a business executive orientation. Irrespective of whether you are a Starbucks or a Cafe Coffee Day or a barista, your profit formula is driven by economies of scale. In terms of coffee sourcing, since that happens to be a most critical COGS or cost of goods sold, you need to have economies of scale in terms of sourcing. What the industry calls as a bean to cup or a coffee bean to coffee cup integration, the industry believes in complete, total vertical integration. The pricing policy is obviously a premium pricing policy. You look at how much the customers can pay or a customer's payability approach. And remember that this industry sells leisure. They sell that 2 hours in which you can relax, you can catch up. The punchline itself talks about you can make a lot of things happen. So, what they are selling is leisure and what they are billing is coffee. Now, to create that sort of ambience, you require a completely new, different set of resources. You require specialized equipment. All of you who would have gone into any one of these coffee shops would have seen a plethora of equipment which is far more complicated than the simple coffee making machine at home. You require extremely trained staff who go through layers and layers of training to create that layers and layers of cream on top of that coffee. So the product aesthetics obviously matters, and the love design, when you couple that with the cafe de coffee promise of a lot can happen over coffee, puts everything right on dot and right in place. So the selling is leisure, the pricing is premium, the integration is vertical, the approach is economies of scale, and suddenly you have a totally new profit formulation and a new customer value proposition. Which brings us to the last example of this 20-minute video. The example is over the top OTT media platforms. Rather than arranging the constructs like the previous two examples, I have followed a slightly different pattern here. Look at the constructs. You have something called a flexible pricing, which ranges from a freemium model to a premium model. You have a lot of original content, which is not related to any specific TV channel. You have a lot of recommendation engines. You have completely new shows for each of these OTT players. You have a plethora of download opportunities, both for shows and for music. You have the possibility of one subscription running parallel users. You have content diversity, both in terms of regional diversity and in terms of genre diversity. You have sourcing tie-ups which are coming up every new day. Today we have a Hotstar tied up to Disney. You have a multi-device flow of content. Content can be flowed to television. Content can be flowed to a desktop, can flow to a laptop, and then flow to your mobile phone. Is there something that is missing out there? Well, the missing one is user experience. All these things eventually drive the user experience that you get from players like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hotstar, and the current platform in which you and me are talking right now, YouTube. Now, are these constructs getting mixed up? Is there no overlapping? Let us take content diversity as an example. Is it a customer value proposition? Obviously, yes. I would want specific type of content in a specific genre delivered to me at a specific time. Does it generate a completely new profit possibility? Obviously, yes. Is it a resource in terms of me owning the content as a diversified portfolio? It's a resource. So, suddenly you find that when new CVPs are emerging, the constructs are overlapping. And that, for you, my dear, is a new food for thought. In completely new industries, you are having a lot of overlapping constructs. To conclude, old ways won't open new doors. Let me repeat, old ways will seldom open new doors. For opening new doors, you have to learn. You have to learn how to adopt a beginner's mind and discover patterns from seemingly unrelated constructs. And then you will have to again continue learning on how to develop an umbrella perspective in trying to simplify, relate, and map. Or I used a heavy word sometime before, to cartograph the identified constructs. With that, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As they say in all videos, like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you once again.